play from your previous spot. 1 stroke penalty for that also. Then this is a new term, back on the line. So you line up with the flag stick, where your ball is unplayable, come back, this is your reference line. You find a reference point, 2 club lengths from that reference point in either direction, and that is a 1-stroke penalty. The new piece to the rule is this. You are now allowed to continue back on a line of play outside the bunker, find your reference point, take your club lengths, drop for a 2-stroke penalty. And people say, why would you do that? Some people can't play out of the bunker. Okay, or maybe the shot is pretty difficult and there's something pretty tricky behind the green, and you think getting out of the bunker with a 2-stroke penalty, you have a better chance of making a better score than if you attempt to hit a ball out of the bunker. That's your choice again. Remember, an unplayable is always your choice.
Also, going back to where you last played is an alternative, understroke and distance.
The 2 fundamental principles of golf are play the ball as it lies and play the course as you find it. But to make the game more fair, you aren't required to. The first step in taking free relief from conditions such as...
Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about, does anybody have any questions about how you get out of the bunker for 2 extra strokes, or what you do for an unplayable? The next thing is more common, and this is where we'll talk about dropping also. There was once a thing called casual water. It doesn't exist anymore. It's called temporary water. There was once a thing called ground under repair. There's no such thing anymore. It's called an abnormal course condition. Okay? And there is still an immovable obstruction and a movable obstruction that you potentially need to get relief from. And here's the process or the procedure and how you take relief from one of these conditions.
Ground under repair, temporary water, and immovable obstructions is to find the nearest point of complete relief. This is the spot, either left of, right of, or behind, where your ball lies that is not closer to the hole, and where the condition you are taking relief from is no longer in your way. You determine this spot by simulating the stance, swing, and direction of play you would use to play your ball if the condition didn't exist. The nearest point can be different depending on whether you are right or left-handed, your height, or your choice of club, etc. It's important to remember that the nearest point isn't always the nicest point. In this case, the player's nearest point of complete relief from his path is under the tree, not to the left of the path in the clear. So it's a good idea not to lift your ball before figuring this out, because sometimes the best option is to just play the ball as it lies. Where your ball lies that is not close to the position you are taking relief from is no longer in your way. You determine this spot by simulating the stance, swing, and direction of play you would use to play your ball if the condition didn't exist.
Okay, here's another thing that I hope you take from today and never forget, especially playing competitive golf. Your ball is on an immovable obstruction, or a cop path, however you want to call it. You come upon the scene, and your ball is on that cop path. Never pick the ball up. Never pick the ball up. I'll say it one more time for you. Never pick your ball up until you know where your nearest point of complete relief is. Because your best option might be to play it off this cop path. Okay? And if you were watching the PGA Tour last weekend, what did Jon Rahm do? Once he was paying attention and once he wasn't. What did his caddy tell him when his ball was on the cop path? His caddy said to him, don't touch the ball until we find out where we're going. And luckily, he listened this time. Okay? Because if he would have taken relief, and remember, you have to take complete relief from an obstruction, his nearest point of relief would have been behind the tree and in the pine straw, and his caddy was smart enough to tell him, your best option is probably to hit it off the cart path, which he did. So when you're trying to determine your nearest point of complete relief, if you're a right-handed player in this example, you have to have your feet off the cart path, you put your club on the ground. Where your club touches the ground, that is your point of reference on this side. When you come to this side, your feet are already off the cart path, so you put the club as far away from the path as you can without touching it. That is your nearest point of complete relief on this side. And what is the only nearest point of complete relief? The closest one. You don't get to choose. So again, if there happens to be a tree here or a row of bushes, and this side ends up being your nearest point of complete relief, you can't say, I'm going to go to the other side. So leave your ball alone until you know where your nearest point of relief is. Very important to understand that. Any questions about taking relief from a cart path or a sprinkler head? Rick?
You still get your on length of...
Yeah, that's a good question. So once you determine that this side is your nearest point of complete relief, then you follow the procedure that we're going to cover next. You get one club length from that point of reference, no nearer the hole, and then I'm going to show you how to drop in 1 second, because dropping is not as easy as they claim it is.
I got a quick question.
Yes?
If I remember correctly, if the ball is on the path
Yes.
and close to the middle but more to the right side, what I understood the old rules was you had to hit on that right side of the pathway.
No, that's not correct. It was never that way. It was always your nearest point of complete relief. And again, just say your ball happened to be here.
Correct.
Potentially a right-handed golfer, it still could be on the other side. So depending on, and I'll use a better example. A right-handed golfer in this scenario, their relief is going to be here. A left-handed golfer, their relief is going to be here for the same exact scenario.
So it doesn't matter where it is on that
It
path?
does not matter where it is. You have to find that nearest point of complete relief, and you have to use that as your reference point.
Okay, thank you.
The nearest point can
Yeah.
be different depending on whether you are right or left-handed, your height, or your choice of club, etc.
Okay, so this is a good question, because this is pretty common. If it's a dirt cart path, tar is very obvious. Dirt, not so obvious. And again, if you end up on a dirt cart path, and you are playing stroke play, and there is nothing on the local rule sheet that says all dirt cart paths are considered obstructions, what do? You play 2 golf balls. See, now you were paying attention on a Sunday morning. That's pretty impressive. You play 2 golf balls. Because there are situations, off the top of my head, if you play tricks, you can almost consider anything a dirt cart path. Okay? And I can say that because I've been a member there for 30 years. Okay? And especially the 13th hole. There's an area around 13 left, out near the bunker out there, that used to be an area where big trucks came through to do some work on the golf course. It was never repaired, and now it's kind of grassed over 30 years later. But that is not considered a cart path, but some extensions of a cart path ends, and then where the grass is, the carts wear it out. That is usually an extension of the cart path when you run a golf tournament. But again, remember to play 2 golf balls. That's the important thing to know.
It's important to remember the nearest point isn't always the nicest point. In this case, the player's nearest point of complete relief from his path is under the tree, not to the left of the path of the clear. So it's a good idea not to lift your ball before favoring the south, because sometimes the best option is to just play the ball as it lies.
Bob,
Yes.
Penalty areas include any
All
body
players,
of
if
water.
they'd like, they can go on the USGA's website and review all these videos, right, if they wanna go back and look
Yeah,
at
I'm doing
anything.
this right off the USGA's website, so there's a couple of things you can do. You can go on the USGA's website, look at all these videos, which I highly suggest. The other thing, I know you all have some type of smartphone now. If you go to the App Store, whatever your App Store is, and you type in 2019 Rules of Golf, a little red icon will show up. Click on the icon, you can download the Rules of Golf book right into your cell phone. And there is a very good search feature in there, so if you type in, you hit the search button and type in ball at rest move, it brings you right to any scenario where a ball at rest moved. Yes?
Going back to the two balls thing, what do you still give the two balls for Stableford?
Yes, Stableford is a stroke play type of event, so you would play two, you are allowed to play two golf balls in a Stableford situation, yes.
In all likelihood, you're gonna be making score high anyway, so.
Potentially.
On the course, plus any other areas that have been marked. If you happen to find your ball in a penalty area, you can play your ball as it lies, if possible to do so. Before playing the stroke, it's okay to ground your club, take practice swings that touch the ground, and move loose impediments. Penalty areas can be marked either red or yellow, and for one penalty stroke, you have several relief options. The first one is to play a ball under stroke and distance from where you made your last stroke. Another option is to take back on the line relief by imagining a straight line from the hole to the spot where your ball last crossed into the penalty area. Choose a spot.
Okay, let's talk about dropping. Because dropping is not as simple as they want you to believe. So, anytime you're in a penalty area, can you play out of a penalty area without taking a penalty? Yes, you can, that's your choice. Okay, if you think you can climb into the water that's 3 or 4 feet deep and make a stroke at it and get it out, that's your choice, for free. But if you don't think you can, then you have some options. You can always go back and play from your previous place. For a one-stroke penalty, this is the important thing to know. If your previous place is the teeing area, can you tee the ball up? Yes. Anytime your previous place was the teeing area, you're allowed to tee the ball back up. One-stroke penalty. Back on the line. So where the flag stick is, where it last crossed the penalty area, you go back on the line. This is the line. Once you decide how far you want to go back, that is your reference point, and then you are allowed 1 club length in either direction, 1 club length back. This is called your relief area now, and this is very important. This is your relief area. When you drop the ball from knee height, where does the ball first have to touch the ground? In the relief area. And where does it have to stay?
In the relief area.
In the relief area. Much different than the old rule. And I'm not even going to tell you what the old rule is because I'll only confuse you. Because most of you didn't know how far the ball could roll in the past. So again, in this option, back on the line of play, you can go back as far as you want. Once you decide where your reference point is, you get 1 club length in either direction, 1 club length back. You can drop the ball any way you want in that relief area. Why did they change this rule? Some of the young people might not remember this, but others should. What happened to Tiger Woods at the Masters about 5 years ago on a 15th hole?
Played from the wrong relief area.
Yeah, he hit like an 80-yard wedge shot, the ball hit the green, 1 bounce off the flagstick, went in the water. And when Tiger went back on his line of play, before you had to drop it on this line, and he was about a foot or 2 to the left, and they tried to penalize him, and then they decided they weren't going to. But now this helps the player out. You go back on this line of play, you find your reference point, you get 1 club length in either direction, go near the hole, this is your relief area. You drop, the ball has to touch in the relief area, it has to stay in the relief area. This is how it gets tricky. You're not really paying attention and you drop from shoulder height. And you let go of the ball. What do you do? Okay, if you're paying attention, you're allowed to correct that error for free before you make a stroke at the ball. So if you drop improperly, shoulder height, you get to correct that error for free before you make a stroke at the ball. If you drop, whether it's correctly or incorrectly, and your ball hits outside the relief area, you also get to correct that error for free. Okay? Remember, the ball has to touch in the relief area, it has to stay in the relief area. So if you do not follow the procedure properly, you get to correct that error for free. Correct for free. Who has a question? Rick?
So, the player makes an inappropriate drop, and then can a spectator alert the player that they've made an inappropriate
They
drop?
could.
Or is that outside advice?
Nope. Okay. Yep. And again, I'm not picking on parents, but I am. If you see your child drop improperly and you alert them, hey, you didn't drop properly, correct that area, correct that error. Should you do the same for the other people in the group? I would hope you would. I would hope you would.
I would.
Bob, do you anticipate they're gonna stick with the knee, or do you think they might switch to waist?
Well, I will tell you this, they're changing things, they've already changed the rule midstream, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I would say this, Dave, I don't think they will change this rule for at least 2 years.
Yes, okay.
So in 2 years, they're allowed to make a revision, and my hope is that they give you some variance.
Yeah.
When we were going through this process, anything I ever filled out said, please let golfers place the ball. Because if you place the ball, the chances of you placing it in the wrong place is pretty slim. But they didn't listen to me. Okay? So now here's how we can trick you out a little more. This is your relief area. You drop from shoulder height. The ball hits in the relief area, stays in the relief area, and you make a stroke at the ball. What is the penalty? You made a stroke at the ball, so now the ball is in play again, even though you dropped improperly. You didn't follow the correct procedure, but you played from the correct spot. That's a one-stroke penalty, and you keep playing. There is no correction allowed. Okay? Now you drop properly from the knee. The ball hits in the relief area and goes outside the relief area. And you make a stroke at that ball. What is that penalty? That's a two-stroke penalty for playing from the wrong place. Okay, and in this scenario, dropping, you're not gaining a significant advantage, so you keep the ball where it is and you add 2 for playing from the wrong place. Yes? So you didn't follow the procedure correctly, and then you played from the wrong place. Yes, you get this, the more severe penalty, which is 2. That's a good question. Okay? Any questions about dropping? Pretty tricky. How many of you are going to drop improperly this year? Every one of you is. I'll guarantee it.
I think Ricky Fowler actually might have helped shed some light for the kids on dropping improperly, but dropping properly.
Yeah, I will say this. In the last month or so, the PGA Tour has been pretty interesting. I have a couple of very good friends who work as rules officials on the PGA Tour. They're not having much fun. And the reason for it is this. Until this year, how often did a rules official get called into a situation? Not very often. Unless something crazy happened, they were not called over. They are getting called over every time a player has any doubt in their mind now. So simple things like this, they are being called over for now because a player does not want to get penalized later on down the line because that costs them a lot of cash. A lot of cash. So it's very important to understand what's going on. And I will also tell you this, you will not hear any more chatter about the rules of golf from PGA Tour players, because Commissioner Moynihan has sent an email out to all the players and told them to knock it off, or it will cost you money. And the reason for that is this: the PGA Tour had two people who sat on the board who decided what all these new rules were going to be, so they were in the room. Now, if the PGA Tour did not communicate these rules to their players good enough, or the players did not attend these seminars, that's their own fault. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes?
What's the proper way to find the relief area? Do you have to use 4 tees?
Yeah, no, this is a very good question. So, putting a tee in the ground is recommended. It's not required. But if you put a tee in the ground and you drop the ball and somebody says, hey, your ball went outside the relief area, you have evidence. And that evidence helps you try and determine whether your ball is in or out. Another good question is this, that nobody asked yet. What do you measure with? What club do you measure with? Change considerably. You have to measure with the club that is the longest club in your bag that is not a putter. So I would guess that 99% of you have, your longest club is your driver, but potentially somebody has a 3-wood or a 5-wood or a hybrid that has a longer shaft than the driver, so you have to pay attention to that. Okay? So you have to measure with the longest club in the bag. I suggest that you put tees in the ground so you have evidence, but that's your choice. Okay, when you measure with your club, do you have to take the head cover off your driver? You do not. See that? I just won somebody a $25 bet this year when somebody says you can't measure. Don't be betting your mom or your dad's money. That's hard-earned money.
And play from within 1 club length of it, not nearer the hole. You do have a third relief option if your ball is in a red penalty area.
Okay, so this is a red penalty area. As you've seen in the other videos, 1 club length either side, no nearer the hole, you have a pretty big area to drop. In this scenario, your ball crossed the red penalty area here. When you have a red penalty area situation, you get to measure 2 club lengths. 2 club lengths back, 2 club lengths no nearer the hole, and this little pie-shaped area is your relief area. The ball has to be dropped from the knee, it has to touch in the relief area, it has to stay in the relief area.
Bob, just to clarify, it's stance for when you're taking 1 club length, right? It's stance and 1 club length. When you're taking 2 club lengths, for this particular instance, it's just 2 club lengths, correct?
Yes, so when you are taking relief from an immovable obstruction, so whether it's a sprinkler head or a cot path, that's free relief, you have to take complete relief. So you can't have interference from the cot path or a sprinkler head any longer. But in a penalty situation, your ball crossed here, this is your 2 club lengths. If you drop the ball, hits the penalty area, stays in the penalty area, and it ends up here. And you're a right-handed golfer, and your feet end up in the water. That's you not paying attention before you dropped. Okay, that's you not paying, that's bad luck. Okay, in a penalty situation, when the ball hits in the penalty area, it stays in the penalty area, it has to be played, irrelevant of where your feet are. Free relief from a cot path or a sprinkler head, you have to take complete relief, and you have to play the shot with complete relief. Good question.
Allows you to find the spot where your ball last crossed into the penalty area and drop the ball within 2 club lengths of that spot, no closer to the hole. Also, there may be an area marked as a drop zone that could be available as an additional option.
I'm actually not going to turn that off again. In case the question needs me to go back to the video. Okay, what else do we need to teach you? Yes.
How much do you feel like bend your knee when you're drop?
This is a good question. So what is knee height? Knee height is this. Knee height is the height of your knees when you're standing up straight. So I'm standing up straight, this is knee height. I can drop the ball laying on the ground if I want to. I can drop the ball standing on a chair if I want to. But my hand would have to be at knee height. Whether I'm laying on the ground or standing on a ladder, somehow I gotta get my hand to knee height. Okay?